Welcome to Vega Rising, a space between worlds, where maps are drawn in stardust, where the soul remembers, and the mystery is you. Today's message is drawn from a different life, a different soul's map. But this is not just for one person, because while each chart is unique, the patterns of the personality, the ways we adapt, protect, and forget ourselves, they echo across time, across cultures, across many lives. So today is not a conversation with an earthling. It's a piece of universal wisdom I will be sharing with you all. I invite you to listen, to feel, and to reflect on what rises in you. For while each path is personal, in the end, it is all one human story. So let's begin. We start with this: what astrocartography actually is and how it all relates to you. It's not just about looking at planetary lines on a map. It's about understanding the energetic blueprint or context that shaped your early life, so you can begin to recognize what's truly you and what's simply the result of your environment, your upbringing, and your conditioning. What we call your personality self. But what if I told you that's not who you are? You are not your personality. The personality was simply the adaptation, but not the real essence. Maybe you already know that, or maybe this comes as a shock. So what do we mean by personality? The personality is like an extra limb, like a second face, a mask that grew over your face in response to your environment. It's the version of you that formed to stay safe, be loved, succeed, or belong. It includes your habits, defense mechanisms, emotional reactions, the way you relate to others, and even how you see yourself. It's not bad. It's just built, based on the circumstances you were born into, the cards you were dealt. So what's beneath that? Underneath all the roles, reactions, and beliefs, there is something deeper. Your soul self, your authentic self, the part of you that is steady, whole, unchanging. The version of you that existed before the world told you who to be. Maybe you've felt glimpses of it, in moments of clarity, or deep knowing, or when something in you whispers, there's more than this. Let's look at the impact of living from the personality self. When we live from the personality self, life can seem fine for a while. You might build a career, a relationship, a version of success that checks all the boxes. But eventually, something starts to crack. Because the personality self doesn't know how to heal. It knows how to adapt. It finds workarounds. And for a time, those workarounds seem like progress, until the soul starts knocking louder and louder, often through moments like breakdowns, crises, or turning points. The personality is great at managing its image. It can get really good at it. It's how it avoids the real issue, the deeper pain beneath it all. Someone with a history of anger, for example, might eventually learn to keep it under control. They read the books, practice restraint, stay in check. But the pain underneath, the grief, the powerlessness, it was never truly addressed. It was managed, not healed. And so one day, they default into the old personality habit. The anger erupts again, not because they failed, but because the soul is asking for something deeper, beyond control, beyond management, beyond performance. It's asking for the courage to face it, the willingness to feel it, and the commitment to integrate it. Eventually, you can't ignore it anymore. It gets too difficult to manage. You begin to feel the tension between the two, the personality self and the soul self. Maybe you find yourself in a job that pays well, but drains your life force. In a relationship that looks secure, but feels lifeless. Or in a life that makes sense on paper, but leaves you quietly asking, is this all? That friction, The restlessness, burnout, confusion, even depression is not a mistake. And sometimes, if we don't hear the call, a crisis strikes. Death, sickness, accidents. What we often label as interruptions, inconveniences, or life falling apart. It's not something to push through. It's the soul trying to get your attention. Because when your life is built from old patterns, from people-pleasing, perfectionism, control, or fear, you will eventually outgrow it. That's why breakdowns happen, why marriages end, why careers collapse, why you suddenly can't fake your way through it anymore. It's not failure, it's the turning point. The moment your soul is calling you home, to stop performing, to stop surviving, to begin living from who you really are, in alignment with yourself, your own truth at the center. I'd like you to envision an onion with thick layers that are building over time. Some smooth, some rough, some protective like a hard armor. Each layer formed in response to something, an experience, a belief, a moment where you needed to adapt. But at the center lives your truth, still there, still intact, just covered up by the weight of lived experience. The soul self isn't something you have to create. It's something you come back to uncover or rediscover. It's the you before the world told you who to be. And that's what your time with me today is here to support. We'll explore how your early environment shaped your personality and where you're ready to begin peeling back the layers. Not to reject your past, but to understand it, to meet it with clarity, and to begin living in alignment with who you really are. Your astrocartography map is part of that journey. It's your personal sacred geometry. At the moment you were born, a unique energetic grid was cast across the earth. These are your lines, your frequencies. Each one holds a specific version of you, a potential life, a potential path. You could have lived many lives, so to speak, and in some ways, you still can. But the moment you step onto one of these lines, whether by birth, by choice, or by emotional connection, that version of your life gets activated because of the soul lesson that begins to unfold, nudging you through different lessons on your way back home to your soul self. The sacred geometric grid I just mentioned are all soul lessons in one way or the other, just taking a different path. So astrocartography isn't about fate. It's about co-creation. You have free will. You choose the region or place. It's simply a map of possibilities, and your choices determine which version of your life comes alive. In the end, the purpose of our time together is to support your hero's journey, your awakening. It's not to predict your future, but to help you understand your past, and sometimes even that is not necessary. There are many ways that lead to Rome, so to speak, the return to your soul self with greater clarity. Each planetary line we explore will show you what was activated in you, not just via astrocartography, but psychologically, emotionally, energetically. And you'll start to see the difference between the life you built from conditioning and the life that's waiting for you now. Because no matter which path you walk, no matter which line you land on, they all hold the same potential. To return home to yourself, to your soul self. So come with me. Sit somewhere quiet. Let the world go still for a moment. I'll take you by the hand now, as we step through the door into the soft, humming geometry of your life. A world you've always known, but are only now beginning to remember. Let's begin with the first one. Jupiter on the midheaven, 32 kilometers away. Jupiter represents growth, expansion, success, and belief. The midheaven, MC, refers to your public life, your career, visibility, and the identity you form out in the world. When Jupiter sits near the MC line, your personality often develops around the idea that you're meant to be someone, or expected to be someone. A pressure coming from you yourself or others around you to be someone successful, respected, or recognized. It has to do with how you get to be seen, and the personality in its strive to be seen can take on many different adaptations to do so. You probably felt this pressure early. Whether it was directly expressed or subtly reinforced, you may have been praised for being driven, talented, capable. Maybe it was your grades. Maybe how mature you seemed for your age. Or simply that people around you expected you to go far in life. You likely learned early that being impressive is how you got attention. It's called adaptive identity formation. It's when the child internalizes, I'm more valued when I succeed. If I'm seen as capable, I'm safe. When I impress, I'm loved. And when you weren't achieving, that attention may have disappeared. This often creates performance-based self-worth, where you're only seen for how well you perform, the part of you that became the achiever, the perfectionist, the woman who's always doing more, striving higher, just to feel like she's enough. It can lead to people-pleasing or a sense of identity built around external validation rather than internal truth. It's the mechanism of the performance-based personality, one that learns how to be seen and begins to sacrifice or exaggerate parts of itself to stay visible or approved. Let's look at the impact if you continue living from the personality self as it relates to Jupiter on the midheaven. Meaning if success, visibility, and recognition are sought not from soul expression, but from the need to prove your worth. Where being seen becomes a strategy for belonging, rather than an authentic expression of who you truly are. This can lead to burnout, a life that looks good on paper, but feels hollow inside. You may struggle to rest because rest feels like failure. You may chase success but never feel it land. There's always another milestone, another metric, another thing to prove, to someone or to yourself. You might feel anxious when you're not accomplishing something. You may find it hard to slow down unless you've earned it. You might dismiss your own needs, telling yourself, I'll rest when I finish this, or I can't let people down. You may build your identity around what you do and can do, rather than who you are. And even when you make it, it might not feel like home. Because deep down, you weren't chasing success. You were chasing validation. Now, what would happen if you dare step into your soul self? Remember, you might not be conscious of this, not yet, but see how it feels. You no longer would chase approval. You would share wisdom. You would allow your success to be rooted and in alignment from within, not performed. You stop asking, am I enough yet? And start living from the quiet, knowing that you always were. Jupiter, when integrated at the soul level, becomes your inner compass, not your pressure source. You rise, not from striving, but from alignment. Alignment with yourself, the soul self. What if you stop trying to prove your worth through achievement, to your parents, your peers, or even just the version of you that never feels like she's done enough? What if you let yourself rest without earning it first? Try letting yourself be ordinary for a moment. and see if your sense of value remains intact. That's where Jupiter begins to work in your favor. Not when you're chasing the spotlight, but when you're aligned with the truth you're here to share. Sometimes the most powerful shift doesn't come from doing more, but from letting go of who you thought you had to be. So pause with me here. Take a deep breath. And try saying this, not to anyone else, just to yourself. All I need to do now is be true to myself. Let it land. Let it be enough. I want to give you some reflections to work with. You don't have to do this now, but rather go through your astrocartography today. Then, when you are ready, return and reflect on these questions. What might your soul be inviting you to unlearn, release, or try differently? If you were to soften the grip of this pattern, just slightly, what might become possible? The soul always leaves a door open. Here's something you might try stepping through. Ask yourself, not from pressure, but from curiosity. What would change if I stopped living from this belief? And if this is the part of the personality that's been leading, what might the soul be asking for instead? Next, you have your moon on the ascendant, 146 kilometers away. The moon represents your emotions, instinctual needs, childhood imprinting, and relationship to safety and nurturing. The ascendant is how your personality was shaped, how you learned to show up in the world and be seen. When the moon is near the ascendant, your personality was deeply shaped by your emotional environment. The emotional tone of your early home life becomes the lens through which you relate to others and to yourself. How this likely shaped your early life. You probably felt everything, not just your own feelings, but everyone else's too. You may have grown up in a home where emotions were big, unpredictable, or unspoken, and as a result, you became hyper-attuned to the needs and moods of those around you. This line often creates the empath, the caretaker, the emotional chameleon, the one who knows how to read a room before she even enters it. You may have learned to be what others needed you to be: soft, helpful, calming, invisible, not because anyone asked you to, but because it felt safer that way. You likely became emotionally responsible far too early. You may have absorbed your mother's emotions, taken on the unspoken tensions in the household, or felt the need to hold everything together emotionally at your own expense. The result? A personality built on emotional management. What this means is you probably learned to monitor, adjust, and often suppress your own emotions in order to keep others regulated. You became the one who made sure everything felt okay for everyone else, even if it meant disconnecting from what you were actually feeling. A nervous system trained to anticipate, prevent, and adapt. Let's look at the impact if you continue living from the personality self as it relates to the moon on the ascendant, where emotional sensitivity and relational attunement become ways to stay safe and liked, rather than honest expressions of your inner world. Where being needed or emotionally available replaces your authenticity, because you've learned to prioritize others' comfort over your own truth. You might continue putting everyone else's emotional needs above your own. You may struggle to say what you really feel, especially if you sense it might disappoint someone, the people pleaser. You may feel deeply affected by your environment, but powerless to set boundaries. This can lead to emotional exhaustion, to resentment masked as kindness, to relationships that feel one-sided, and to a quiet sadness underneath it all, the feeling that no one really knows the real you. It might show up as shape-shifting in order to avoid conflict, as silencing your truth to keep the peace, as being liked but not truly understood, as being needed but not truly nourished. You may feel responsible for others' moods and anxious when things feel emotionally unstable, because stability in others has become the way you regulate your own safety. It's the unconscious belief that if they're okay, then I can be okay. As long as everyone else is calm, you feel safe. If they're upset, it feels like you've done something wrong, or that your world is no longer secure. What could happen if you dare to step into your soul's self? You begin to make space for your own emotional truth. That's a choice you have to make. No one will nor can do it for you. You have to honor yourself and start daring to express yourself. You realize that your needs really are not a burden. Your needs are sacred signals from your soul. You stop absorbing what isn't yours. Discerning other people's energies and life lessons from yours is a very important step and will also help you in creating boundaries, essentially transforming that people-pleaser personality. Remember, they too have their own path to walk, their own lessons to learn. It's not yours to fix. If you truly want to help others, reflect back to them from your authentic self, so they can see more clearly where they need to grow. And you learn to feel deeply without becoming responsible for what others are feeling. There are their feelings, they belong to them, and then there are your feelings, which belong to you. This is when your emotional sensitivity becomes a gift, not a drain anymore. This is how you become the grounded empath, capable of connecting with others without enmeshing and entangling in their energies or mess. You'd feel more rooted, aware, free. So pause with me here once more, take a breath, and try saying this, not to anyone else, just to yourself. It's safe to be honest. It's safe to be me. All I need to do now is be true to myself. Let that truth settle in your body, not as a performance, not as a role, but as a quiet return to you. Let's pause here for a moment and ask something deeper. What is the soul asking for? What if you let someone else carry the emotional weight for once? What if you said what you needed before making sure everyone else was okay? Try noticing how often you check the temperature of the room before checking in with yourself. And then experiment with this. What changes when your feelings are the first ones you listen to? Next, we have Mars square the ascendant, 11 kilometers away. Mars represents drive, desire, anger, conflict, and willpower. The ascendant reflects how your personality is expressed, how you show up and relate to others. A square brings tension and friction. So when Mars forms a square to the ascendant, your personality is shaped by an inner struggle, inner conflict around self-assertion, around how safe it is to take up space, to express, speak up, and act on your own desires. How this likely shaped your early life. You probably learned early on that being direct, wanting something, needing something, saying no, was not an option because it wasn't entirely safe. Maybe there were arguments at home. Maybe someone else's anger took up all the space. Or maybe your own assertiveness was met with criticism, shut down, or emotional withdrawal. Whatever the form, the message you internalized was the same. Tone it down. Keep the peace. Don't cause trouble. And yet, there was likely a fire inside you, a part of you that wanted to speak, push back, be bold so badly, but it got ignored, buried, or it came out sideways, in bursts, outbursts, or quiet rebellion. This line often shapes the personality around internalized tension. You may look calm on the outside, but there's a constant battle between your desire expressing yourself and holding it all in. Over time, this creates the identity of the hyper-independent woman, the internal pressure cooker, the one who doesn't ask, but quietly resents. Let's look at the impact if you continue living from that personality self as it relates to Mars square the ascendant, where inner conflict around self-expression turns your fire inward and your power becomes something you suppress, over-control, or only release when it's too late. Where your desire to keep the peace overrides your truth, and your drive, instead of serving your soul, becomes a way to manage fear, not move with purpose. You may keep minimizing your own desires to avoid conflict and maintain harmony. You might suppress anger until it explodes, then feel guilty for speaking up. You may say it's fine when it's not. Smile when you're seething. Apologize for having a need. You might avoid asking for help because it feels like weakness, or deny your own limits to prove you can handle it all. You could find yourself in power struggles, romantically, professionally, even with yourself. Or you may swing the other way, pushing too hard, controlling too much, using drive as a way to avoid feeling vulnerable. You might feel stuck in a pattern of overcompensating, where silence feels like safety and action feels like survival. This can lead to exhaustion, isolation, resentment, a chronic feeling of fighting life instead of flowing with it. Now let's explore what would become possible if you dare to step into the soul self and live from there. You begin to reclaim your voice, not as a weapon to fight others, but as a truth, your truth. You learn that anger is just a symptom of having suppressed your voice for so long. You stop suppressing and start expressing with clarity, confidence, power, not shame. Mars at the soul level becomes clean fire, purposeful. You take action for what really matters, not just to defend yourself, which is what the personality would do. Mars at the soul level becomes directed. Your energy now has a focus, not just a flare, and creative, a force for building, initiating, and moving things forward with clarity and conviction. You act when it matters. You rest when you need. You no longer shrink to keep the peace, or fight just to feel in control. That's what happens when you wake up from the limitations and compensations of the personality self and step into your soul self. When you finally dare to align yourself with you and are being true to yourself, the soul self. So pause with me once more here. Take a deep breath. And try saying this, again, not to anyone else, just to yourself. My voice matters. My needs are valid. All I need to do now is be true to myself. Let it feel like strength without the fight. Here are some reflections for you to work with when you are ready. The goal is to help you anchor more deeply into this awakening, from personality to soul self. What if you didn't have to win, but also didn't have to hide? Try noticing where you swallow your truth just to avoid tension. Then ask, what would it feel like to express what you want without apology, and trust that it's not too much? Here's another thought. Have you ever tried to sing? What if you explored voice or singing lessons, not to perform, but for healing, to fully step into your throat chakra. Or maybe you try other forms of vocal expression, like the spoken word, breathwork, chanting, spoken poetry, or simply speaking aloud your truth in a quiet room. Any practice that helps you reconnect to your voice and the power that's been waiting to speak freely. Lastly, Saturn square the midheaven, 77 kilometers away. Saturn represents structure, responsibility, boundaries, self-discipline, and long-term growth through challenge. The midheaven, MC, is your public life, your career, your relationship to authority, and how you pursue your role in the world. A square creates tension, so when Saturn squares the MC, your personality is shaped by pressure around success, worthiness, and external expectation. How this likely shaped your early life. You probably felt a strong undercurrent of responsibility from a young age. Maybe you were the mature one, the one who handled things, the one who didn't make a fuss. You may have grown up around emotionally unavailable or overly demanding caregivers, where love was tied to achievement, obedience, or usefulness. This is often the signature of the parentified child, someone who ends up taking on emotional or practical burdens that were never theirs to carry. Whether spoken or silent, the message was, be strong. Don't fall apart. Figure it out. You may have felt like you were supposed to have it all together, even when you didn't. This creates a personality built around self-containment, holding in, holding back the self, the one who doesn't ask for help, the one who keeps going, the one who silently carries the weight of everyone else. And yet, underneath that composure, often lives self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and the fear of letting people down. Let's look at the impact if you continue living from the personality self as it relates to Saturn square the midheaven, where responsibility, self-discipline, and achievement become ways to earn your worth, rather than an authentic expression of your soul's purpose. Where holding it all together replaces being held, and strength becomes a performance, instead of a grounded truth that begins within. You may keep building your life around a sense of duty, instead of what you really desire. You might take on too much, but feel like it's never enough. You might believe that rest is earned, and only once everything and everyone else has been taken care of. You could stay in roles or careers that feel like obligations, not soul choices, while secretly wondering when it gets to be about you. You may avoid asking for help, telling yourself, I should be able to handle this. You might struggle to celebrate your wins because you're already bracing for the next task, the next standard, the next thing to prove. This can lead to emotional burnout, bitterness, a deep sense of being unseen and under-supported despite how much you give. It can also keep you stuck in survival mode, always productive, rarely fulfilled. What would become possible if you dare to step into your soul self? You begin to ponder about and reframe what it means to be strong. You realize that asking for support isn't actually weakness, it's wisdom, from your soul asking for what you need. You stop defining your worth by your output, performance, and productivity, and start honoring your inner truth, your real calling, and the version of success as you deeply desire it, that actually belongs to you. Saturn at the soul level becomes your wise guide, not your punisher. It gives you the necessary structure to protect your own energy, not to prove your value to others. You become discerning, finally, intentional, and you are rooted in integrity with yourself. Not for approval, but because it aligns with your own truth this time around. You've carried so much for so long. You've held the weight of responsibility with grace. But strength isn't just holding it all together. It's also knowing when to put something down. So pause with me here. Take another deep breath. And try saying this. Again, not to anyone else, just to yourself. I don't have to earn my worth. I am allowed to be supported. All I need to do now is be true to myself. Let that truth soften the grip. Let it rebuild you from the inside out. So here are your reflections to meditate upon when you feel ready to help you step into your soul self. What would happen if you stopped carrying everything alone? If you stopped earning your worth through effort, productivity, getting things done, and allowed yourself to be supported? Try loosening the grip for just a moment. Let the to-do list wait and ask, what am I building here? And is it actually mine to carry? Or am I building something that someone else is to carry, not me? Now that we've walked through the 4 power lines near your birthplace, you've seen the version of you that was shaped by location, time, and early life influence. These patterns were part of the personality self you developed in response to the environment you were born into. Let's take a moment to pull it all together so you can begin to see the deeper pattern across it all, the one that shaped your personality from your earliest challenges and the gifts you carried forward from childhood into the rest of your life. Some of these patterns you may already know and be aware of. You've lived them, you've questioned them, maybe you've even begun to outgrow them. And some might still be hidden, quietly shaping how you move through the world, from the personality self and its consequences, until you are ready to face them and alchemize them. Because the context you were born into, as reflected in your astrocartography, isn't fixed. It was just the starting point, your own personal blueprint, your personal sacred geometry, with your own unique energetic grid cast across the earth. Think of it as a sacred field of possibilities, many different lives written in your soul map. But you chose these, partially half asleep as you were navigating from the personality self, and partially guided by the quiet nudges from within your soul. The good news? You still can adjust your life. You have free will. You have a field of possibilities to step upon, different lines with different soul lessons. So as promised, let's look at a brief summary of your overall pattern. Jupiter on the midheaven shaped you with early messages about success. That your worth might be tied to achievement. That being impressive, capable, or high-performing was the way to be seen and valued. This planted the seeds of drive, but also the pressure to always be more. In short, this tends to create a performance-based identity, seeking worth through achievement and being impressive. Next, the moon on the ascendant made you emotionally sensitive, maybe even overly responsible for other people's feelings. You likely became attuned to others' emotional needs before your own. A caretaker, a peacemaker, the one who holds it all together quietly. In short, this tends to create emotional over-responsibility, people-pleasing to stay safe and loved. Then we looked at Mars square the ascendant, that added internal conflict around self-expression. You learned to suppress your assertiveness, your anger, your voice, because being direct may not have felt safe or welcomed. That fire got pushed down, or turned inward, being hard towards yourself. Try noticing your self-talk. In short, this tends to lead to suppressed assertiveness, fear of taking up space or rocking the boat. And then, with Saturn square, the midheaven gave you an extra layer of responsibility. You may have carried more than was fair. You learned to be composed, mature, reliable, even when you didn't feel ready. And over time, that created the belief that strength means silence, that asking for help is weakness, that success requires self-sacrifice. In short, this can lead to hyper-independence, worth tied to duty, self-containment, and never asking for help. Together, these lines shaped a version of you who is driven and high-functioning, Jupiter. Emotionally intuitive, but often self-silencing, Moon. Fiercely independent, but sometimes resentful or misunderstood, Mars. Dutiful, composed, and quietly burdened, Saturn. Now, I want you to know that his version of you, the personality self, was brilliant. She got you through. She did what she needed to do to stay safe, belong, and succeed. But she's not the end of the story. Because underneath her is your soul. And your soul is asking, can we do it differently now? Can we stop performing and start listening? Can we build a life that fits who you truly are? Not just the one you were trained to hold. You don't have to fix anything. You're not broken. This is about becoming conscious, so you can choose what to keep and begin to gently release what no longer fits. This is the return, not to who you were told to be, but to who you've always been. So what we just explored together were the 4 major power lines closest to where you were born and raised, your hometown region. These lines shaped the energetic foundation of your life. They influenced how your personality developed, what you learned to do in order to be safe, seen, and loved, and where your soul might now be asking you to return to truth. Think of this as the first layer of your astrocartography map, the terrain of your early life, the blueprint of who you became, before you had the awareness or the freedom to choose otherwise. And if this feels like a lot, it is. But it's also just the beginning. If and when you're ready to go deeper, we can explore something called crossings. These are places in your map where 2 planetary lines intersect at a latitude. They don't just shape a local region, they reveal deeper soul contracts, emotional patterns, karmic lessons, and ongoing internal themes that can follow you wherever you go. The crossings are where things get more mythic, more archetypal. They show the repeating chapters of your life, the stuff that keeps showing up until it's healed, integrated, or transformed. But for now, what we've covered is more than enough to begin seeing yourself differently. These 4 power lines you were born into gave you structure, drive, empathy, and resilience. They also gave you pressure, over-responsibility, emotional entanglement, and a fear of letting go. And now you get to decide what stays and what doesn't. This is the soul's invitation, your soul's invitation.
You have been listening to Vega Rising. Because to rise is to get back up, no matter what, and recognize the mystery and strength of your soul deep within you. A mirror, a whisper, assisting you in your own awakening, an invitation to explore, to remember, and eventually to rise again.